Good evening. Whoa, excuse me. This March 9th, 2020 workshop meeting of the Carmel Clay School Board is called to order. Thank you all for joining us, especially members of Miss Muse's kindergarten class from Woodbrook Elementary. This meeting, like I said, is called to order. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Board member Leila Spanberg is not present for today's meeting.
Thank you. Next, we will rise for the pledge led by our kindergarten guests. And for those of you kindergartners here, I expect tomorrow you to tell your classmates what they missed, that you got to lead us in the pledge. Also, thank you parents for bringing your students with you this evening. We understand it's a school night, so after they make their portion of the presentation, please feel free to leave. It will not hurt our feelings. Next, we will move to consent. On the consent agenda this evening, we have the personnel report, claims report, and payroll. May I have a motion to approve consent?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? No, there being none. All in favor of approving consent, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? No, thank you. Motion carries. I believe that Dr. Ostrike would like to inform the public of a specific new hire.
Thank you, President Kirschner, members of the board, Dr. Beresford. We are very pleased this evening to welcome Mrs. Joanna Mulligan as our new Assistant Director of Special Services. Joanna earned her bachelor's degree from Indiana University in Bloomington in elementary education and special education, while going on to obtain her master's degree in educational leadership. She also received her Director of Exceptional Needs license and an educational law certificate from IU in Bloomington. Mrs. Mulligan was a special education teacher at the Center for Inquiry before becoming the special education coordinator with the Hancock, Madison, and Shelby Educational Services Center. This was an interlocal serving special education students in 6 different school districts. Most recently, she has served as the Assistant Director of Student Services for the Southern Hancock School Corporation, responsible for early learning programs, essential skills programs, supervision of special education staff, including teachers, occupational therapists, speech-language pathologists, physical therapists, school psychologists, and deaf and hard of hearing teachers, among many other responsibilities. We are very excited for Joanna's future work with Carmel Clay Schools, and she is a very enthusiastic professional with a wide array of experiences in special services that will make her an asset within our school community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ostrike. Next, we will move to the workshop topic. Dr. Dudley.
Thank you. Good evening. So this evening we have a very special presentation on integration of technology. And as you'll recall, the past 5 years we have been working with integrating technology within the classroom to amplify the learning. And we've had several different board workshops and board updates over the years. This evening, as you can see, we have some special guests from Woodbrook Elementary School that will be presenting. And we also have Mrs. Anna Rorio and Mrs. Christy Cloud. Anne is Director of Curriculum, and Christy is our Director of Technology. And the two of them have been leading this charge over the past 5 years. We have Miss Kate Masterson, is a specialist with technology. She works with our teachers on providing professional development with that technology. We have Mr. Mark Smith, who is an assistant principal at Clay Middle School. And we have Miss Lisa Carroll, who is a French teacher and technology coordinator at the high school. So I'm going to start and turn it, if I would ask the board members, do you want them down there yet, or do you want to start, Christy? Not quite yet. Okay, I'll turn it over.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for inviting us here to share with you tonight an update on technology and the work that we've been doing over the last few years. We're also excited to share with you tonight a look into the future and the next steps that we're looking to embark upon here in Carmel Clay Schools. So tonight we're going to take you through a three-part agenda. The first part is we're going to look at the systems that we've put in place to ensure a successful technology integration initiative in Carmel Clay Schools. Then we're going to spotlight our schools. We're going to look at not only the elementary with our littlest learners from kindergarten. We're also going to have Mr. Smith talk about our middle school initiative and Ms. Carroll talk about our high school initiative. And then Mrs. Arroyo will come back up to talk about next steps and where we plan to head from there. So while we get started tonight, Kate Masterson is going to join us and tell us a little bit about the systems for success that we've put in place to help make sure that we have a successful technology journey.
Thank you. So as we were looking to support teacher and student success in the classroom, we looked at both infrastructure and innovation. I'm going to start with infrastructure because it's generally not the most exciting part, but it is a very essential piece to keep all the bits and pieces humming. So as we looked at our infrastructure, we've done things like increasing our internet connectivity by adding access points in classrooms. We have beefed up our network. We have added lots and lots of devices, and we've implemented more robust filtering solutions to help keep our students safer. When we look to innovation, a lot of that comes down to the work that I get to do with teachers and the work that our tech coaches and instructional coaches do with professional development, so really helping to support those teachers in the classroom. So we have both online and face-to-face professional development. We have a little endeavor that we've started called the CCS Tech Drop, where we send out all the things that are constantly changing. So I don't know if you know this about technology, but it kind of just snowballs. So we try and feed people little bits as stuff comes up so it's not one big, and now Canvas looks like this. Ta-da! And then a really important part of what students do day to day in the classroom. So if you take a look at our K1 classrooms, they are what we call a 1-to-2 student to device ratio. So they have access to Chromebooks and they have access to iPads in the classroom. Our grades 2 through 5 and then 6 through 8 are all 1-to-1 with Chromebooks. So there's one device for every student in those buildings. In the high school, we have a sort of a mix of all kinds of things. We have device carts that include Chromebooks, that include traditional Windows laptops. Students are also encouraged and allowed to bring their own devices. So if they have, a MacBook, which a couple of them might have, they can bring that and access our platforms, which kind of leads into these two pieces that make up a big part of our technology integration. So one is Canvas, which is our learning management system. And I like to think of Canvas sort of as the digital equivalent of the physical classroom. So it's a place to have all the stuff that you do in class just in an online format. And then G Suite is our productivity tool. And so that includes Google Docs, slides, sheets, forms, sites, all the things. And both of those tools are device agnostic, browser agnostic. They can be used on everything from a phone to a giant PC. And that really helps students to be flexible so they can work on the device that is most comfortable for them. It gives them access no matter where they are and what they're doing. And we've really done a lot of work to help build teacher skills in both of those areas. I might be a little partial to G Suite. We have 70 teachers right now who have their Google certification, and I'm working on a cohort right now with 24 more. So that has been a huge part of our success.
So as Kate mentioned, these two tools are really part of this infrastructure and innovation vision that we built for Carmel Clay Schools. And you'll notice on the 4 quadrants here of this circle that there are the 4 C's that you've heard us talk about with the Summer of E-Learning that we've worked through, as well as most critically at the center of this illustration are our students, our most important learners that we are encouraging each day and helping them along their technology journey. So with that, tonight we're going to start our spotlight on the schools, and we're going to start with our elementary. So we have Mrs. Lauren Dunlap, who is one of our instructional coaches, and Laura Muse, who is a kindergarten teacher at Woodbrook. And they are here to help our littlest learners show you how they have been empowered to use the Chromebooks for all 4 of those C's. So at this time, I believe we're ready to invite the board to the table, and we'll get ready to get started. While you're moving down to the table, I'm just going to go ahead and share how we kind of started on this journey. About 3 or 4 years ago, when we first started getting the carts of technology in the building, and at that time it was Chromebooks, iPads, and the convertibles, I came to Lauren and said, help me, I want to use these look awesome, what should I do? And so she and I kind of collaborated together to work on what we could use those devices for.
So that particular summer, I had just been introduced to a new book, Google Apps for the Littles. It's written by Christine Pinto and Alice Keeler, and if you're unfamiliar with those two names, they are huge technological gurus with the Google Apps for Education world, and specifically with technology. And I looked at it and I said to Laura, all right, we can do this. We have a plan. We have a couple ideas. I have this new book. We created a first 20 days of school curriculum calendar for our littlest learners because we wanted to start this on the very first day of kindergarten, and that's exactly what we did.
So up, actually, behind you are some handouts that we can bring down, but we just called this our so what, so why. Why was this important? Why did I want to start this right away? And we really looked at technology as being something that shouldn't necessarily take the place of something else, but rather should be something that we can use to still provide the same curriculum we would use otherwise, just in a technology format. And with that in mind, we also talked about how we want to teach them the building blocks of these programs, so it doesn't really matter what the result is, what the project is that we're doing. They can use the same building blocks in any project in my classroom and any project in another classroom, so that it really sets them up not just for the specific things we're doing in kindergarten, but what they're going to do in first grade or second grade and on up.
So if you haven't already, kindergartners, go ahead and greet your adult new friend. You can say hello to them. You can greet them with a high five or a handshake as well. We would like you to go ahead and show your new adult friend how you completely and independently log into your Chromebook and access your Google Drive. Board members, they do this on a daily basis, and they'll share with you a project that they created. Kindergartners, go ahead and answer any final questions. And then as soon as you're done, you may go ahead and do what we say is one of the most important things to help keep the Chromebook safe and to make sure that they're ready to access the next time, and that's to log out. So can you show them how to log out? You can give them a high five and you can go back and rejoin your families.
So just quickly, so you can kind of get an overview of the projects that we do focus on in kindergarten. We start the year with an All About Me in Kindergarten book, and that kind of serves a couple purposes of teaching them those big buttons that they really need to know so that we can kind of grow from there. And it also is a social studies theme that we have, so we kind of start there. And then move to Pumpkins, 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 which you might have seen, which is teaching how to do a partnered shared activity. With a science theme. And then from there, what they're actually working on right now, we're not quite finished with it, so we didn't want to share it with you, but we're learning about Google Drawings and starting with drawing a snowman since we started in January, February time. And then we use actually what they learn in the snowman to then move on to some layering to go along with an Ezra Jack Keats author study that I do, and that consists of them drawing a picture physically with paper, pencil, crayons, etc. And then we upload that to their Google, and they put that into a Google Drawings and then draw on top of it. So it becomes the illustration for a realistic fiction story that they write. And then to end the year, we go back to slides and kind of put all of those pieces together, and we make an ABCs of Kindergarten book. So it includes that coloring a physical thing, uploading, and then sharing something that they've done in kindergarten that year.
So hopefully you saw today that the skills that they're doing in kindergarten at 5 and 6 years old are the same skills that we do on a daily basis, not just here in the education world, but outside of school walls as well. As we mentioned, this is something that we do in kindergarten, but it doesn't stop there. So right now we'd like to go ahead and share with you a couple of first graders at Woodbrook Elementary. These 3 kiddos were in Mrs. Muse's class last year and talking about their favorite part about what they did last year, and then also how the technological skills that they learned in kindergarten help them now. That's their Google drawing. sound advice from some first graders. Thank you very much.
So nobody wants to follow that now. We're all over there thinking, oh gosh, we have to go next. That was too good. Leave it to kindergarten to figure out how to make something seemingly complex so simple and easy for kids to access. So thank you to Laura and Lauren for all your hard work tonight, and for your students and families for bringing those kiddos. Yes, Dr. B.
I know that kindergarten's going to be late, so I just want to say, Weston, when you learn how to do that picture thing where you can upload it, draw it, I want you to show me how to do that. Okay? Thank you. That was fantastic. And I know that. What was the name of the book you had?
Oh, it's Google Apps for Littles. Google Apps for Littles. So it's for littles, as in little kids. So Google Apps for you. Who's the author? Christine Pinto. P-I-N-T-O. And then Alice Keeler. Keeler.
Those are two big names in the ed community for learning Google tools and how to make kind of innovative use in the classroom. And they found a little niche market with the apps for littles that have been really helpful for our teachers. Okay, so now we're ready to move up a level here, and we're going to start by spotlighting the middle school. So as I believe Kate mentioned earlier, we've moved to a one-to-one model with Chromebooks at the school. So at our middle level. So the devices stay at school, but every student in our middle schools have access to a Chromebook all day long. And so part of that process was helping our kids get ready for that at our middle level, which involved a lot of procedures, as you can imagine with middle school, but also helping our teachers learn how to leverage that for learning. So I'm going to pass it off to Mr. Mark Smith, Assistant Principal at Clay Middle, and he's going to talk a little bit about what that looked like in terms of getting our staff and our students ready for that transition to one-to-one.
Thank you, kindergartners. And thank you for this opportunity to share a little bit about what technology is meaning at the middle school. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Ann and Christy and Kate for all of their leadership in this area, because it is a huge undertaking. And when we think about a middle school student, the simple statement, they can't live without it, is so true, and it's no wonder. Because they don't remember a life without a Kindle, without an iPad, without an iPhone. And what amazes me is the iPhone that I carry every day, that I love and that I think is amazing, is the worst phone they will ever know. I don't know what else we can do out of these things, but I'm sure in 10 years, this will seem almost obsolete. And so one of the key things for us is to continue to work with our students and our staff to ensure that whatever technology comes along, they're ready for it. They're ready to move into a world that the future doesn't yet know. So when we think about our teens and our teachers, we think about a world that has changed drastically. I remember as an educator on 9/11, it was a very simple message. Once we knew what had happened to the World Trade Centers, the message came across, turn off your TVs. We'll talk about it at the end of the day, how we're going to deal with this. In this day and age, that wouldn't be an option. Our students get the same news in the same time that we get. So we have to train them on how to use that, how to prepare them for that, how to be responsible with the news that they learn. Today I had the opportunity to meet with some of our sixth graders who are in their health classes. And our social workers were in teaching them how to responsibly use social media. And they did it through a series of having about 30 different scenarios, and they split them up in groups, and kids would share the scenarios and talk through what would you do if you received that email asking for personal information. What would you do if? And they had all of these different scenarios for the students to work through. You get news. How do you identify if it's real? We recognize that in order for our students to continue to grow in this area, it's important for us to prepare them to be responsible digital citizens, for them to find balance in what they're doing with media. Sometimes I'll hear parents that are concerned that, well, our students aren't gaining the social skills that they need anymore. I assure you, if you walk into our cafeteria any day, our kids are talking. Our kids, if you walk through the halls, they are learning how to build relationships. Now, are a lot of their discussions about TikTok videos, about some of the Instagram stories? Certainly. But that's the world that they've grown up in, and that's what we would expect. So at the middle school level, we offer classes like Digital Learning 2, where we're teaching kids what it means to not only be responsible, but about the digital footprint that they will leave behind. So as we continue to embrace more and more technology, we've spent more and more time talking about how do we best use it, and we spent more and more time thinking about how do we meet the social emotional needs of our students and all of this information that's readily available. And that's where I really appreciated what our social workers and our health teachers were doing today. So as we continue to onboard and move to a one-to-one initiative where students will be taking devices home, we're excited about the opportunities that it will bring for our kids and for our staff. We've spent a great deal of time over the last 5 years embracing Canvas, learning about it, working to try to become more consistent and to make sure that it's a viable way for us to share information, a way for us to use it as an instructional tool, and a way for parents to be informed with how their children are doing through that medium as well. Walking into a social studies class, and I love social studies, I love history. Some kids were looking at Central and South American countries. And I thought, great, they're probably using the devices to Google some questions, to dig in and look at some pictures and some images, and I wonder what they're finding out about what it's like in Guatemala. So I walked over to a group of 6th graders, and I'm like, how are you finding out what it's really like in Guatemala? And they're like, Mr. Smith, it's easy. We go to Google Earth, we type in the city, and we literally go drive the street with them, and we see what's similar and what's different. And so just those opportunities are amazing. All of our social studies teachers this year are really focusing on research and how to teach our students what good, solid research is. So we see it as a tool that is expanding our opportunities for students and our staff. We see it as a tool that is opening up doors that they haven't always had in the past. And we see it as our responsibility to prepare them to be responsible in that. All 3 of the middle schools in Carmel have the Common Sense Media designation, which means our staffs have done some additional training to ensure that we're prepared to help meet those needs. So I can just simply say at the middle school level, we are looking forward to the future and the opportunities that will be coming toward our way.
Thank you, Mark. So now we're going to start transition to talking about the high school, and we're going to highlight today how the high school and through our professional development, we really work to support all of our teachers at the high school so that they can best support their students. With the amount of teachers we have at the high school, that is no easy feat. We have with us today Lisa Carroll, who is a French teacher at Carmel High School, but she's also our technology coordinator, one of our 2 technology coordinators in addition to Dave Helder. We also have a tech cadre at the high school, and that's a group of teachers or committee of teachers who then also do some wraparound support, as well as our instructional coaches when it comes to technology. So Lisa's going to talk about some pathway work that she did with her high school teachers in order to help them be the most prepared that they can be to support our high school learners with technology. So Lisa, if you want to come on up.
Thanks. So this year at the high school, our setup was a little bit different than it has been in the past. So this year, instead of having just a couple of carts in every department, we actually had a cart of at least 15 devices in every classroom. We knew that this change was going to be really exciting for some teachers. We knew that it was going to be terrifying for others. So we really wanted to make sure that we were offering a PD that was relevant, that really met teachers where they were at, but also gave them some voice and some choice in that as well. Yes. So our solution was custom PD pathways. And so at the very beginning of the year, teachers could self-select or they could take our technology personality quiz to find out where they fell on this technology spectrum. And so we really wanted to let teachers know that we were there for them and that there was going to be PD that was going to be leveled for them as well. So we also knew that we had teachers who barely used devices in their classroom, and we had some teachers who were already effectively implementing blended learning strategies. It's like, how do you meet both ends of those? So what we did was we did monthly teaching with technology workshops, and we leveled them for our tech newbies, our tech typicals, and our tech ninjas. Our goals for our tech newbies was really to let these teachers know that they had a support system, and we wanted to reduce techno panic as much as we possibly could in a 45-minute workshop. And so what we did was we gave them hands-on, ready-to-use resources, including 2-to-1 device strategies, classroom management policies and procedures, as well as best practice Canvas usage. For our tech typicals, teachers were able to choose the topics that most interested them when they RSVP'd for the workshop. So this gave them that voice and choice that they needed. And we, again, really wanted to support our teachers who are just taking their first steps into blended learning. So we had strategies like Blended Learning 101. We also talked about how to implement Canvas in the classroom, so not just for announcements or posting homework, but how do you really implement it to the best of your ability in your classroom with these devices. And we also talked about evaluating tech tools. There's so many different technology tools that are out there, and teachers can spend hours and hours just looking at them. And so we gave them the tools they needed to most effectively choose the tool that worked best for them. And then in November, we met with our tech ninjas, which was probably my favorite workshop. Again, they got to choose the topics that most interested them, and we really dove into them. These included advanced Google hacks. They also included accessible web content. And really what it ended up turning into was just a round table where teachers got to share out the amazing tools and strategies that they're already using in their classroom. So even those of us who use technology all of the time left with really exciting and new ways to use technology. So it was a really awesome time. So at the end of the semester, I think that we did what we set out to do. We offered PD that had some teacher choice and some teacher voice, but it was also leveled to meet teachers where they were, but we also challenged them to take those next steps in their technology integration.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay, so we've seen a lot of really great things happening at each of our levels tonight, and as Dr. B always says, Carmel Clay Schools, we're the best at getting better. So that, we kind of want to transition to talking about what we're doing to help get better as the years go on, as we look forward to the future. So we're going to talk about each area of schooling because we're all in very different places and their device configurations may be a little bit different as well. So we're going to start a little bit with our elementary. In elementary, our goal really is just to continue this journey. We've done a lot of work with professional development, and we have a really strong job-embedded professional development program within our school, through our schools, through our instructional coaching program, as well as through collaboration. Really, our focus continuing to be on leveraging those tools to amplify the learning, really thinking about how we can use these tools also more creatively and more flexibly. We saw a lot of that this evening with Mrs. Muse's course. They're not just making a presentation using Google Slides about something they learned in social studies. They're thinking a little bit more creatively about how to use Google Drawings or how to use Google Slides to use them in more meaningful ways to really amp up that learning. Also, as Kate mentioned earlier, continuing our focus on the 4 C's. We don't want to use technology, especially in our elementary, but K through 12 just for substitution. We want to be encouraging creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and communication with those tools because we know those are long-term things that we want kids to carry forward even when the technology will most likely change in the near future. By the time those kids are in high school, who knows what they're going to have in their hands for devices, but we know creativity, communication, collaboration, critical thinking is here to stay. And then finally, one thing that is to come is as we're starting to build these new buildings that will open in a couple years for our new elementary buildings, is thinking about what our classrooms of the future may look like, and our new buildings are helping us maybe re-envision that. So one of the things that we are looking at, and we're piloting a little bit in some small places to get ready and to test out for our new Orchard Park and our new, well, now it's Clay Center Elementary, and our new Carmel Elementary schools, thinking about what is the teacher setup going to look like. And we've heard loud and clear from our classroom teachers, they want more mobility and more flexibility. Our current setup for our teachers, it's great, but it's very stationary. So often our classroom teacher desks are in the back of the room alongside the document cameras. So a teacher will sometimes be working at the document camera, and projecting to the front of the rooms. The students will have their backs to the teacher. They won't even see the teacher while the teacher is talking. They can't get up and move around and be around students while they're also using those doc cams. So what we're piloting out is really kind of changing the face of what teachers have in their classroom. So what we're going to first try is taking out the desktop altogether and replacing that with a Chromebook for the teacher so they have access to everything they need, but in a more mobile format. Then they would also receive an iPad, which would give them more flexibility for doc cam. So instead of having a traditional doc cam that would be stationary in your classroom, we would have a special stand, and there's an example of one, it's about the fourth picture over, where the iPad would actually sit on a stand. They could project like they normally would with a doc cam, but they could pick that iPad up, walk over to a student, and project whatever's happening on their desk. They could be sitting in the front of the room using that while they're talking directly to the students sitting right in front of them. So again, offering more flexibility, more mobility for our teachers. Also allows the teachers to be, again, more along the side of the students instead of just standing at the front presenting from a device. In order to enable us to help do that, one of the things that we're looking at and trying out, and actually I believe right now we're using it, is our presentation software called Solstice. That is a mirroring software that will allow the teacher to use that iPad or Chromebook or whatever device they're on. They can even use the phone in their pocket to mirror what's on the screen, but they can also pick computers of students in the classroom to mirror what students are using from their Chromebook, iPad, whatever the students have in front of them. And then the phone, I believe we're just thinking about location of where that phone may be, not just sitting on the teacher's desk and what kind of phone they might need for a general classroom. Student tools will mostly stay the same right now, keeping that cart of student devices with the same amount that we've had last year, and then also getting that Solstice software for the students also so that they can mirror as well as the teacher. Okay, so middle school, as we think about this, we have big plans for the middle school for next year. We're already working and got our middle school's done a beautiful job getting the kids onboarded with using those devices every single day, but now we're looking to take those devices home. So starting next year, we've been working with our middle school admin to figure out how we're going to communicate a plan, what that's going to look like, how we're going to onboard students. Our tech team is working on an at-home filtering program for those Chromebooks that students would take home that will make sure that we're keeping them as safe as we can be when they're on our devices, but they're working at home. And that will also include expanding our onboarding process. So kids are really good now, for the most part, at using that device at school and know what the rules are and know how to take care of the device. That's kind of a whole new game when you start taking that home every day and then bringing it back to school. So do I have to have my device charged? What if I forget my device? You know, just kind of logistics of bringing, for a middle schooler logistics, bringing things home to home and then bringing them back to school every day is going to require a little bit of onboarding work. We're currently working on a communication plan for families that will launch here this spring to explain what they can expect, have an FAQ. We're also working on a page for our website that will have everything families need to know what to expect with this device, with these devices coming home in the fall. And then finally at the high school, we are continuing to encourage our students to bring their own devices in addition to the devices that they have at their, they currently have in their cart system. And we know that by 2021 to 2022 school year, the 8th graders who will have devices next year will be transitioning to the high school in 2021-22. So we are currently working with the high school to make sure that they are prepared for students coming to them ready, used to a one-to-one and a one-to-one take-home. So we're still figuring out the logistics on devices for that. It will include some form of a BYOD model, but we will also have devices available for kids who will need something else. A big piece at our high school, as Lisa talked about, is just to continue building that capacity in Canvas and the Google suite of tools. And just as a reminder, we do have some programs at the high school, or journalism, or in some of our computer science programs. They're going to need a different type of device, and we'll continue to provide those specialized equipment for those specialized programs as well. So to wrap up here tonight, we have a little quote from Simon Sinek. It's better to go slow in the right direction than go fast in the wrong direction. Back in 2015, we were charged with getting technology and devices and getting more devices into kids' hands here in Carmel Clay Schools. When I think back to the beginning of that work, we did not have a learning management system. We had computer labs, and we had some device carts in buildings and a BYOD model. And since then, we now have all students K through 12 working and using on a regular basis Canvas as their learning management system, both at school and at home. We have thousands of devices upon thousands throughout our buildings, and not just one type of device. We really also have taught students to be flexible across 3 device types as we learned and worked and figured out which device would be best for us moving forward. And we have that unifying Google G Suite tool suite that we're using all the time too, that again, really focusing on those 4 C's of creativity, communication, collaboration, critical thinking. Our message has been and will continue to be focus on the learning and how technology will continue to support that work. And we have a lot of work ahead of us, but I think we're in a really great place over this last 4 to 5 years to keep that work moving forward in the right direction. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you with any questions you might have. And Christy, if you want to come up too, we can tag team questions as they come up. Yes, Pam?
Well, thank you. First, for the middle school students, they're beginning their one-to-one in 6th grade, is that right?
Correct.
Right now? Okay, so then it'll be a while before they get to the high school with that one-to-one.
Let me clarify. They are all right now one-to-one, 6 through 8, all have access to device all day long. And next year, we are going to do everybody 6 through 8 take-home model.
A what model?
6 through 8, they will all
the
take
take-home model. Okay,
year.
that's another question I have. Internet access. Okay, they're able to take the device home, but not all families will have access to the internet. So what are we doing with that?
That's a great question. We work with our student services team on that. We have 2 low-cost internet providers in the district that are able to offer services at a reduced rate for families who might need that service. And then if we find a family in a situation where that even isn't a solution, then we work with student services to see what other options we might have available for that family.
Okay. All right. And another question. I was just talking to somebody, and they were talking about the middle school and how quiet the lunchroom was. And that's because all of the students were on their phones during lunch, so nobody was talking to each other. So I'm wondering, do they have access to their phones at lunch, or are they totally gone?
Mr. Smith, would you mind? You probably have the best experience with this of any of us.
Well, they do have access to their phones at lunch because we find that's a good break for some of our students and for some of. But I assure you, come join us sometime for lunch.
Oh, I've been through your lunch.
It is not. It is not in any way a quiet area. The kids are enjoying lunch. They're enjoying getting to know each other. They're still building the relationships. But a lot of time is some of the conversation centered around what they're seeing on their devices? Absolutely. But we have found also for many of our students, it's a good break in the day. For some of our students who just need a little bit of alone time, they use that as a chance to kind of recenter and move forward.
Do we monitor what they see on their phones? Or can we? Or is there an ability to do that? Because who knows what they're looking at on their phones?
So that's a 2-part question. One, if they have signed up and put their device on our wireless network, then yes, we are able to see where they're going on their site, on their phone, and what activity they're doing. If they're using a data plan provided by their parents on their cell phone and not on our wireless, then no, we are not able to see that traffic.
Okay, well, that's kind of concerning. Okay, what if a parent wants to does not want their child to use your Chromebook, but will offer their own Chromebook for their child to use so they can take it back and forth?
So one of the things we talked about with our middle school administrators was that very question, because we know that some families, I have 3 middle schoolers, we have Chromebooks, they each have their own Chromebook at home. And they're very comfortable with using that Chromebook at home, but when they're at school, our feeling was, and working with our administrators, just like we have common curriculums for reading, for math, for language arts, that Chromebook would be the device of choice that they would use at school. If they take it home and they decide there's another device that I'd prefer to use at home, that would be fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Other questions? Lynn?
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing student learning with us using technology. Yeah, I learned something from my kindergarten partner. It's also amazing to me that although she couldn't read the word insert, but she knows that is press. So I'm just curious to see how you teach kids that don't read yet or kids with disabilities like dyslexia to actually navigate technology. That's my first question. Second one is piggyback on Pam's question. If kids are using their phones on our network, can we block certain websites?
Yes, on our internet filtering tool that we have in the district, we're able to block activity on websites. And we have a committee of teachers and staff who evaluate which websites should be blocked. We block based on the internet COPA SIPA compliance.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you want to speak a little bit to how you teach the littlest?
Yeah, that was definitely a question that we knew that we had to answer prior to doing that. Number one, first and foremost, it's lots of modeling. So we are always up there saying, okay, holding their hand in a way to say, here's what we're going to do, modeling it just like that. The second thing is very visual. So we drew pictures on certain posters, put it under the document camera so that when they were able to go and work independently, they could always look up and reference those pictures up there. So if you were talking with your little kindergarten friend today, chances are they might say, oh, I clicked on the triangle. Oh, I clicked on the mountain. That's how.
And to tag on to that too, when we think about students with disabilities or students who are learning English for the first time or have limited English proficiency, we have lots of strategies that we use through accessibility features and through universal design for learning. So lots of visuals, lots of support, simplifying language. Technology so easily has so many of those visuals built in. But the same things that we would do in the classroom for a student who is still struggling with reading and reading the content, we would do and use those strategies with technology and tech tools.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Hit the button, though.
These are fancy technology. Do I hold it?
Nope, just leave it right on the table. There you go. Sorry. So one thing I noticed, which I think is really neat with my middle schooler, is I find her on Google Docs playing. And I mean that like in the best way possible. Like she's on there and she's making slides and she's going through and she's doing all these things. And I love it because she's a creative person naturally, and that's where she wants to go and create things. So I think that that's fantastic that not only are they using it in the classroom, but that's where they want to spend some of their free time also, is to making things. And she has this one thing where because they can go in and share the document and different people can work on it. So in some ways it's like a social thing for her. So she'll do something and a friend will do the next slide and they'll kind of make something together. So it's really fascinating to see it extending beyond the classroom where they're using these great things, for recreational purposes, which are fantastic. And the other thing I was just commenting was on the phones in the cafeteria, the middle schooler thing. I get to hear about how there's, my daughter there's rules. She's like, we can't take pictures, and they always know about it. And so it's like the kids know that the rules that they can and can't use, and they're enforced too, because I hear about that also. So I think that they know what they can't do, and they know what they can do, and it is like a conversation piece. And I get to hear all the time, well, so and so gets to have this happen, sorry. So it's like, but it's a conversation to knowing the things that they can and the different rules too. And I think also, and it goes as parents, technology is going to, as a parent, what I can control. I can lock down my child's phone during the day, and I know when her lunch period is, so it's unlocked during that time. And if you do have parents who have the technology bases too, there's so many things that we can do to protect our kids, even if they're smart enough to not do the Wi-Fi in the building.
And as much as we work to really try to protect them and make sure they don't have access to things that are going to be dangerous or hurt them in any way, shape, or form, one of the things, and I think it's such a great place in middle school to be doing this work, is they have to learn how to behave responsibly, because the consequences are really scary when you get older and you're looking for jobs, applying for colleges. So the importance at middle school, that's where, I mean, we start it as soon as, you know, elementary school, but they need to learn what the rules are, how they need to stay safe, because the bottom line is we will not always be there when they're after school by themselves looking over their shoulder to see what they're working on or what they're looking at. So teaching them that responsibility now, because we know there's lots of adults who don't know how to do that yet. So kids know how to use devices. It's our responsibility in our schools to make sure they know how to use them safely, responsibly, and know how to use them for learning. They're good at Snapchat. They're good at Instagram. That's great. Now, how are you keeping yourself safe? And I would say I have a 6th grader and 2 8th graders. In my house, somebody tries to take a picture and they say, hey, you did not ask permission for that. Or they're very careful about not turning on, putting their names on things that they know other people might see it, and not putting the location services on. They know some of those things already, and we reinforce those at home, but I also know they're being reinforced in school.
I think they do a nice job of self-regulating and telling each other, like you're saying, and I think Mr. Smith could attest to, they also are very familiar with the Stop It app, and if they have a concern about use of technology online, they're very forthcoming with that to report that to an administrator.
And the main thing is, too, supervision, and that's what we keep making sure we talk to our teachers about, is it's still our responsibility to look over their shoulders, know what they're doing, be moving around the classroom. Technology doesn't mean we can just stay over here while the kids work at their desks. That's a constant. Kids can still do things you don't want them to do when you're not looking, so you've always got to be looking.
One more question? Okay, I have one more question. Is there a specific, do Chromebooks come in different levels or different types? Or is there a specific one that we use in the schools? And do we let the parents know what apps they could put on their computers at home that the kids are familiar with so they can continue to practice or use them at home?
So we use an HP Chromebook in this district, and the apps that we put on are pretty limited on the Chromebook because we only put apps that we list on our website under our third-party tools are the only apps that are loaded. So that is linked within our accessible use policy on our website, and it lists all of the tools that we use. So the critical pieces that we really want parents to focus on at home are Canvas and the Google suite of tools. Neither of those will they have to load on their devices because they're both browser agnostic and they do not require an app to function. Yep.
Well, first I want to thank everybody.
I have one question. The equipment that you were showing for the 2 new elementary schools, and I assume other elementary schools eventually, but is that applicable for the secondary schools, or would they have something different?
That's a great question. We're starting with this technology at the 2 new elementary schools, and actually we've been piloting it at Creekside in a couple classrooms this spring. Because Creekside is going under some renovation this summer, it's a perfect opportunity to try this out in a couple classrooms, and if it's successful this spring, then we look to do this with some of the Creekside classrooms, and then eventually to, yes, both of the other middle schools. The high school, as we're still developing our plans there and the one-to-one and BYOD initiative, we'll have to think critically about what is best for those classrooms. But yes, there's nothing to stop this technology from being successful in the high school classroom as well.
Well, first again, I want to thank everyone for the presentation this evening. And then I also, I just want to thank backwards a little bit. The quote about not rushing brings an important thing to me that there was some pressure a number of years ago for us to move in that one-to-one direction. And I'm going to mess up the terminology, I know, but it was, not one-to-one, but flexibility and making sure that everybody had access, but not necessarily one to take home. So
one to world.
One to world. So I appreciate that. I think, looking back, we're in a much better place that we didn't buy 16,000 devices that now are no longer current devices. And I guess that leads me to 3 questions about moving forward with the one-to-one in the middle school. One is, what happens if they get lost? And is there a way to remotely disable them? 2 is, what happens if they get damaged? I know we see lots of advertisements for insurance and the question is whether the insurance is worth the cost and who would pay for it if it's damaged. And then the life expectancy of these devices. So I'm assuming when a 6th grader gets a device next year, by the time they get to high school, that device will be outdated.
Sure. So 3 different questions there. Let's start with the outdated first. You may have to remind me as I work backwards through these questions, Mr. Kirshner. So we anticipate these devices lasting between 3 and 4 years. So yes, a 6th through 8th grade device, and then potentially the need to carry it forward with you as a freshman is an option that we might have. The devices that we currently have in hand, we're not buying brand new devices for next year to start the one-to-one. So they've already been in play for at least a year and some of them a couple years. And so we'll continue to cycle through those devices as the students move up. And when the student's device is due for replacement, then we'll replace that through that process. As far as lost, yes, through the Chrome tools that are available as part of the G Suite for Education, we are able to mark a device lost. And so we can put a message on that and record it as lost right within the system. The Chromebooks carry limited information that the students are storing on them because the majority of their information is stored in the cloud. So that's another reason it's a great solution. And then the third option about damage, fees can be assessed if there was repeated damage to those devices to a family. At this point in time, we've been monitoring damage throughout this year. While the devices are not going home, we have not seen a huge amount of damage at any one of our buildings yet, and we think it's manageable within our existing budget to be able to do that as long as we don't see repeated damage from students. And insurance was another question. These are relatively low-cost devices, somewhere between $185 to $250 devices, and so ultimately we don't believe that a family necessarily needs to carry that insurance on these devices, again, because of the low cost of the device along with the low damage rates that we have had on them at this time. That's obviously something we're monitoring carefully to see if we'll need to make a change with that.
Thank you. So to further on your question, so a student in 6th grade may not have the same device for all 3 years, depending upon the age
correct.
Of the device.
That's correct.
Do we have any other questions? No? Well, thank you.
Quick comment?
Yes, please.
Just a quick comment. I just wanted to share how impressed I am coming into the district with the number of teachers that we have and staff that are Google certified, and kudos to Kate and Mrs. Cloud and your team for doing that. I always love receiving an email from a teacher, and in their signature it says Google certified educator. I'm always impressed when I see that, and hopefully I can join in a future cadre to get trained.
We will get you signed up right away.
Be careful what you ask for.
He'll probably have an email before he leaves here.
I'll just dovetail on that too. I got to tell you, I've seen technology implemented poorly, and this is the best I've ever seen. And the collaboration between curriculum and instruction and technology, and the work at the building level with making teacher leaders and you know, our coaches, you just can't do it better than that. And very thoughtful. One of the weaknesses that happen in these settings is that they grab the devices and put them in everyone's hands before they're ready, and it ends up being you know, a $250 notebook. You know, we just, instead of writing it on paper, we'll write it on a computer. But the time that you've taken to make this a tool for learning and a tool for a high engagement learning strategy, instead of it being a device where students can continue to consume technology, using it the right way for creativity and innovation and discovery and research. And it just, you know, I'm old, so I started out with an abacus, but you know, to see this happening, and I had the opportunity to go visit a classroom in Mrs. Aw's class, which I call Mrs. Awesome's class, and every student there had done a research project on their device, and there were real world problems. There was why there should be therapy dogs in school, or why there should be, I remember these ones because they were close to my heart. One is that we need to have more mental health therapists available at school for kids. And I was like, well, we're working on that. And like, good, you know, it was good. Things about, sustainable, living and being good to the earth. There was just a lot of very individualized things. And one of the things we talk about is students having individualized, having a voice and a choice. They were able to choose it. They were able to research it. And then while I was there, they were showing me their presentation of their research and why these problems needed to be solved. And I was just going, this is the way this tool should be used in an educational setting. So it's just kudos to the whole team. Just amazing, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We will move the next item on the agenda is superintendent's report. Do you want to give it here? Or would you like to move back to the dais? Have it here. All right.
I want to take just a little bit of time and bear with me a little bit just to talk a little bit about COVID-19, also known as the coronavirus. And there's been a lot of concerns about that. It's been in the news quite a bit today with some news coming out of Avon and where they were recommended for a school closure and maybe even a district closure now, I heard later this evening. And I just kind of wanted to let y'all know what's happening in Carmel Clay schools regarding the virus. So we're continuing to monitoring the spread of it, and currently I'll reemphasize that we have no suspected or confirmed cases of COVID-19 in our schools. Now we continue to work closely with our local and state health departments, and we will always defer to the medical community to give us the input we need and the direction we need when it comes to medical things. I am a firm believer that those folks that are trained and highly trained and can give us the best information, the ones we need to lean on these situations, because we are not medical professionals, we are educators. But we'll continue to work with them and we'll follow their recommendations. And if we have a case at some point in time, we'll lean on them for direction on which way we should go. If we are in a situation where we'll need to close a school or several schools, we'll utilize virtual learning resources and for any school stoppage over an extended period of time. I think after tonight's workshop, you can see that we have the pieces in place to be able to continue to educate our students at home virtually. I'm really excited about the piece. You've heard the word Canvas a lot tonight. And that would be the main platform for the interplay between students and teachers, in the home setting on technological devices. I won't tell you that, I don't want to sound like that's a simple thing because there's a lot of pieces to it, but the teammates that are around this table have been working diligently to be able to do it and do it at a high level, and I'm confident in their skills, and the pieces are there, and we'll be ready to do that if we need to. I want you to know currently, our custodial staffs at the schools are focusing extra attention on sanitizing the high traffic areas, high touch surfaces to help prevent the spread of germs. They're also disinfecting our buildings, they're disinfecting our buses, and we're also reminding our students about the importance of washing their hands. All the experts keep saying, wash your hands for 20 seconds. I think it's wash your hands, sing the happy birthday song twice, and you got it done. And then also, we're using hand sanitizer. The CDC recommends the following: avoid close contact with people who are sick, avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth, stay home when you're sick, cover a cough or sneeze with a tissue and throw it in the trash. We always talk about sneezing into your elbow if that's not available. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces with a clean spray or wipe. And then here's an interesting one. Follow the CDC's recommendations for wearing a face mask. A lot of folks are thinking, should I send my kid to school with a face mask? And the CDC does not recommend that people who are well wear a face mask to protect themselves from respiratory diseases, including the COVID-19. Usually those are used by people who show symptoms of a sickness, and it's actually the ill people that are wearing those. Other than health workers or people like in the hospital or the clinic settings, that's not appropriate. And again, just wash your hands, over and over again, and then use hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol. What we're going to do is to keep our Carmel Clay School families informed. We're going to be sending out a communication as early as tomorrow to answer a lot of the questions that we've been getting via email. And then also we're going to launch a web page with up-to-date information from the CDC, from state and county health departments, and then also from Carmel Clay Schools. So we want to put a place where parents and the community can go to and always find the most up-to-date, the up-to-date information. Now, situations like these are very fluid. Changes occur quickly, and we want to be proactive in our communications because, as you can tell, this is going, at a very quick rate around the country, and we want our families to be prepared. So if there is a situation where we may, be advised to close a school or do different protocols, that our parents can start thinking ahead and thinking, what will we do if that should happen in this case? So hopefully we won't have to deal with a lot of it, but we want to be ready, and that's what our plans are going forward. We'll have a lot of more specific questions and answers on the website in our communication, and that'll be forthcoming. So wanted to get that out and get that clear, and out. Now I have some fun stuff to report. I'm going to lead off with the dance marathon. Carmel High School kids, just every year, it's just amazing. They had another incredible dance marathon on February 29th. 600 students were dancing away the evening for such a good cause. And the grand total they raised for Riley's Children's Hospital was $473,394.15. And we are so proud of the students and staff who helped make that the largest in the country, and for both student size and the amount of money donated. Kudos to the Carmel kids and the staff that do that. What an amazing dance marathon. National History Day competition. We had 120 Carmel High School students compete in the National History Day Central Regional Contest, and 40 students qualified for the state competition next weekend. So we've got some good historians working hard at Carmel High School. I love these reports because you can see the diversity of things that are going on in our school system, because our CHS culinary baking team won a gold medal at the competition, and will be advancing at the state competition, and will be advancing to the national competition again this year. If you recall, our baking team were national champs last year, I believe, and so going for the two-peat on that. So our bakers are out of this world. WHJE 93.1 on your FM dial. We're in the Intercollegiate Broadcasting Awards, and the radio station received 14 national awards for the Intercollegiate Broadcasting organization. And students also had the opportunity to visit New York City's NBC4 news anchor and CHS alumni, Adam Kupperstein. So kind of full circle there to see some of the alumni making it big. Let's move on to the highlight, which is the student newspaper and online magazine. And Grace, Sophia, Ria, Jackie, Riley, Kalina, Maddie, they won the Center for Scholastic Journalism at Kent State's Covering Student Activism Contest. The highlight will be receiving $500 for the school's media program for Fired Up, which was a September 20th, 2019 web package that localized activism for climate issues. So, how cool is that? That group of students work collaboratively, and now has gotten huge recognition for that. That's great. This week is Food Service Staff Appreciation Week. So we'll be celebrating our food and nutrition staff members as part of National Nutrition Month. And our staff members have a significant impact on our students, serving millions, and we're not exaggerating. They serve over 1 million meals. And we'll call it, they're not just meals, they're healthy and delicious meals. And they're also very nutritious. And that's what gives our kids the energy to stay focused throughout the day. So we're thankful to have such a caring group and committed staff members. And if you've ever been in the lunchroom in any of our schools, there's not a grumpy lunch lady. Orland Sky. They love our kids, and they know them, and make a difference. Prom is coming up, if you haven't been paying attention. So we do have prom attire donations. So prom is an exciting time for high school students. Unfortunately, not everyone has the means to purchase prom attire. So Carmel High School is accepting donations of gently used, teen-appropriate prom dresses, suits, ties, shoes, jewelry. You can drop them off at the Freshman Center main office between 7 and 3:30. And they're also accepting homecoming dress donations. So prom attire distribution will be starting after spring break. I think they're in April 17th, I think is the number. Gonna have to throw a shout out to our own Roger McMichael here, who was featured on the Inside Indiana Business, along with Ascension St. Vincent Medical Director Dr. Michael Busk, and to discuss the success of the Carmel Clay School Wellness Center. So in just 2 years, the Wellness Center has saved the district $11 million. The success at Carmel Clay School has attracted national attention and an expansion of the model across the country. We're thankful to have a great partnership with Ascension St. Vincent, and they provide our employees with acute, preventable, and wellness-focused primary health care services. And the services are available at no cost to our employees and their families that are on the HSE insurance plan. Wellness Center continues to expand with a variety of fitness classes, strength training, TRX, Pilates, actually yoga, which is Roger's specialty, and also spin classes. It really is a full-service station, and our staff really benefits from that. And now you can see that it's working. And so kudos to Roger and the team that keeps developing that. So now we'll go to the world of sports. I was in Florida last week, and I was watching the Hounds play basketball. It was amazingly exciting sectional. And congratulations to the CHS boys basketball team for winning their 6th consecutive sectional championship. And leading up to the sectional championship, it was against Noblesville, and it was held at Noblesville, so it was kind of a home game for those guys. And it's a tie ball game with seconds to go, and Jackson Jansen drives to the right and drops in a fadeaway 10-footer to win this game on a buzzer beater. And I believe Jackson had missed a free throw that could have put us 1 point ahead. And I thought it was a beautiful thing because he didn't let that defeat him. And as a matter of fact, he got open and scored the buzzer beater to win the game. So that was exciting. And then they were in the championship game against Westfield. And Brian Waddell scored 26 points. Pete Suter added 17. He's one of those guys that makes everybody better, Pete Suter. Remember that name. He's going to be a big-time player somewhere. And but they had a 14-2 spurt in the first half, and they were able to keep it solid. The Rocks came back in the fourth quarter and cut it down to like two or 4 points, but then the Greyhounds took over and took care of business. So they're on to the Logan Sport Regional next weekend to meet New Haven and hopefully get past them and get to the championship on Saturday night. But my bell ringer has to be the Carmel High School boys swimming and diving team. They won their 6th state championship last weekend. The team won 6 of the 12 total events at the state meet. The 200 medley relay team started off the meet by setting a new state record and a new national record. And the time that they beat for that national record was their own. They had said it before. You might have heard the names Jake Mitchell and Wyatt Davis. And these guys, Wyatt Davis set a new record for individual or just total championships for a career, beating out another Carmel swimmer. But it was just an amazing meet. And the Greyhounds finished the day with records with a new national public school, high school record in the 50 freestyle, which was Jake Mitchell. And you're going to see those guys in the Olympics one time. We had them here at the board meeting and after their swims at Budapest. And so, and then to top it all off, Chris Plum, the coach, that was his 23rd overall state title, and now he's tied for the most state championships by any coach in the IHSAA history. The person he's tied with is a guy named Chuck Keppen, who coached cross country at Carmel High School, and so great work for Chris over these years, and it was just really an amazing thing to watch. And just to add one more little exciting piece to it, last year you witnessed our own Roger McMichael jumping in the pool to celebrate the championship. Well, this year we had a brand new staff member, our own Dr. Tom Ostrike, who did a very impressive, basically belly flop, and I would give it, a 10, and only to be beaten by Dr. Harmas, who did an amazing belly flop, which was clearly an 11. So it was a great time, and what I've shared with the kind of the swim nation is I don't think there's anything better than finishing the season with your shoes off on the deck, getting ready to jump into the diving well. So congratulations to those kids. They work extremely hard. Coaches work extremely hard, and they've set up a culture that's pretty amazing in that aquatic center. So, and that concludes my report for tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you as always for the very informative report. At this point, I will accept the motion to adjourn the meeting. A second? Second. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.